it's really interesting, isn't it? Because all of you clearly are doing interesting things in your own agencies, and part of the reason that you're on this jury. But if we can take a step back and look at the industry in general, I mean, the industry in general, the design industry in general, is still not doing enough. What do you think that we need to do as an industry in terms of recruitment, client relationships, the relationship we have with brands, to actually start to make some of the sort of difference that you've talked about much more systemic, much more fundamental? Natasha, do you want to start on that one?
Yeah, I would pick up on Sue's point from earlier. I think be proactive, and we've all learned from this very strange last 12 months that we can actually be really productive when we work flexibly. We work around our lives rather than the other way around. So I think proactive and very simple things like offering flexible working to enable women to come back into the workplace after children, for example, I think is really good. I think putting the onus on the individual to, like Rosanna said, go in there and alpha negotiate when maybe they're not set up with those skills in the first place, or they feel like they're potentially going to damage their careers irreparably, is not a good dynamic. But if we proactively as leaders and managers can offer flexible working or things that will just suit that individual, I think we will make big change. And I think we need to think deeply on the subject ourselves rather than getting them to do it and do what might feel like unreasonable demands. So for example, when I went back into work after maternity leave, I didn't think, oh, my child's going to grow up and will become less reliant on me. I didn't think about that. All I was thinking was, okay, I have to be flexible. That's the only way I can make this work. But actually, we could have done something like, okay, we'll do a sort of staged go back to work, and then I'm very happy to work full time. But I think the proactive thinking is really important for all companies.
Rosanna, what do you think? I mean, you're very interesting working in placemaking. You're working in a very male-dominated industry, aren't you?
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's really interesting, I think, because on the one hand, you're right, it is male-dominated, especially I think in client terms. But when we do encounter either client relationships or sort of agency studio relationships where we have female leaders kind of on an equal level, in fact the kind of, I think the culture around the projects totally changes. So I think there's something there that I believe is going to be more important going forward around this notion of collaboration. Placemaking is an incredibly collaborative sort of industry, design industry, because it brings in so many different disciplines. We're going to have to just encourage that going forward to get out of this new COVID mess. And I think a lot of it, as you said, is about really understanding the nuances of relationships. So there's a lot of, put it this way, there's a lot of focus in design on the output, the craft, the process, but there isn't always a lot of focus on the team building. Like, we're wearing different hats. How does that reflect? How do we find better ways to kind of collaborate together? And I think that, some of the work we do is around training teams to be able to better collaborate. And I think, again, that regardless of gender helps people from different backgrounds, different let's say disciplines, who wear different hats to empathize with each other. So a lot of it comes, I think, around taking a step back, training people up, and then seeing how that works on a project.
What do you think, Chloe? Do you think, so it's interesting today, I heard on the news that for the first time, a third of all directors in FTSE 100 companies are women. And it was interesting that they announced it on the news as if they were very proud about it. They managed to get
I heard
that. Big improvements from where we were, but still a long way back.
Yeah.
Do you think that we need to do something more regulatory around having equality, diversity in agencies, so that you actually make things happen rather than just encourage it?
I feel like when you look at the statistics, I think it's easy to kind of look at the start and the beginning. I think there was a really interesting graph that kind of showed, I know we've touched on it earlier on, but you know, tackling the points that where women tend to fall down at the industry is really important. So gender equality is not a problem at graduate level, and I think the graph, you can literally see it kind of going from the, you know, the level as you go up, it gets further and further. So the guys, even though it might be a 50-50 at junior level, by the time it gets to senior design director, it's dropping off, and then by the time it gets to CD, it's completely gone. So I think it's really important to address those points and kind of look at the whole scale and your company as a whole. We need to make sure that that women feel motivated, that they feel supported to thrive in this industry. I call it like a cheerleader. I've got a cheerleader, Claire Robertshaw, who's the ECD. She's cheerleadered me since I joined as a middleweight, always putting me in situations, giving me that confidence to grow, and potentially maybe even, you know, promoting me, and sort of saying to me, you know, you're going to be around all the guys, but don't worry, giving me advice, podcasts, books to read. And that kind of cheerleader and encouragement has almost kind of rubbed off on me, so that now I'm kind of hopefully doing that on. I think parenthood as well, and Natasha's touched upon it, it is often a time when women either choose to go freelance or take a break from their careers. And there's many other reasons for this, but I think there is kind of outdated attitudes to the flexible working, and also, again, this pandemic has been, you know, a life-changing thing on so many levels, but hopefully it has brought around a little bit more equality to show that you can, you know, work from home and still be as effective as you can be in the office. And I think actually sharing the roles a little bit more will help. For me, definitely equality is exactly that, and making sure that men don't feel alienated as well. I think it's not about raising this next generation where men are inferior and women are amazing. I think it needs to be equality on both levels, and it is about removing all those barriers, embracing the cultural changes, and being a cheerleader, no matter who it is. But I certainly think that women, there is certain points that they tend to fall away at, and it's about making sure that we support women coming back to work, or actually, you know, promoting them to the point that actually it feels okay that they are, you know, that they are encouraged, and that they've done a good job in rewarding them for it. Great.
Sue, what do you think? Do you think we need to do more?
I think we do need to do more, but I would broaden it. I mean, I think to Rosanna's point, you know, we need to embrace the breadth of humankind, and humankind covers so much diversity. It's women, it's men, it's age, it's demographics, it's kind of race, it's disabilities. And I think if we are truly going to reflect the real world, we have to really work hard to bring that mix and kind of menagerie into our kind of businesses, because otherwise it's kind of, you're always going to be fighting the balance of one or another. And I think it's much bigger than that. And to Chloe's point, you know, that drop off of women at senior level, you don't even get the entry levels for disability and kind of race and ethnicity. And I think that's something that we're struggling with massively as an industry, but it goes right back to the colleges, and we've been working with the colleges to try to understand why are these individuals not coming into the colleges and kind of studying, and how can we help at that level rather than expecting them to come through. And I think we, you know, if we really want an inclusive and diverse culture, it has to spread the kind of mantra of the entire humankind. And I think we'll end up with a much more fluent, creative output. And that is on the onuses of the businesses. I agree, John. I think we do have to, as businesses, do something about it. It's not, we can't wait for it to happen for us. So.
Well, I wonder whether there's going to come a time when clients come to you and say, we'd like to work with you, but unfortunately we can't because you don't have the right mix of people in the agency. And I wonder whether that will ever happen.
I think it already is, John. Yeah.
I agree. We worked with one of our architecture clients on a project, and the client themselves, there was a really competitive pitch, and they were asking for a women-only team to work on developing a place, which is fascinating. And our partner won, which is great, because they really have spent time promoting senior women partners, promoting younger women, as kind of the voice of their studio, which is fantastic.
Yeah, the same happened with us. We recently won a pitch for a feminine hygiene innovation, obviously undoubtedly influenced by the chemistry that we had with the client and, you know, our work, but also our team kind of mirrored the client's team. We stood apart from the competitors, and the client actually commented that they'd never met a women creative director on all the other places that they'd pitched before, which kind of made me shocked and sad, because I know that there's amazing creative directors that are women out there. But it is really interesting. I think more and more clients are looking for people who reflect their brands, whether that be for females or whether that be a more kind of diverse kind of project overall. So I definitely think it's something we're going to see more of.